Halfway through the 2023 Racecraft Rallycross campaign, the drivers have made their way over the pond for the European swing. Hello everyone and welcome back to Racecraft TV, and get ready and get buckled in to go at Brands Hatch once again. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined alongside by the recently joining us, Dame Baird, who has come in hot, ready for some Rallycross action at Brands Hatch, a track that's hosted Rallycross in the real world, Dane, going back into the history books, but not at this layout that has seen plenty of chaos over the years.
Yes, different layouts of the layout that they use in the real world. I think part of that was due to the area that they used to have the old Rallycross circuit in the real world. It isn't actually in the scan data for iRacing, so I think they just couldn't make that layout. I kind of like the layout that they do have, but it does invite chaos in every single sense of the word. Like, every part of the circuit, stuff goes wrong. If you get the Joker wrong, you fly over the fence. Like, it is a very unique circuit. It has a lot of very odd parts to it, but it holds a special place in all of our hearts, I think.
Heavy braking zone at turn one as well, down through the gears, clunkily, then transitioning onto the dirt, sliding through that chicane, where we will probably get the flip counter out. Let's quickly look at the schedule, running down through the rest of things with qualifying underway. Remember, second half of the campaign starts now. Sonoma, our rescheduled season finale. Going to be interesting there. One of the drivers' favorites a lot of the time with just the way that it drives and really demands the most. But with the bowling alley, it's a treacherous place to have as a championship showdown. Let's talk a little bit about the track itself. We mentioned a fantasy layout of sorts in that we use the Brands Hatch Grand Prix layout and then add some dirt in various places. 1.21 miles in length, one of the longest actually available here on the iRacing platform. 62% tarmac, 38% dirt. It's going to definitely take the drivers to get the balance of that, especially. We always talk about track evolution, important to get the most out of the fresh track here in qualifying. Points format, how do we start to get points and accumulate points on the championship run? It all starts in qualifying, builds through the heats. You hope you don't have to go through the last chance qualifiers because A, more fighting, more jeopardy, B, more points, and better starting spots where feature points will be that much easier to come by. And with all of that said, let's run you down through the points in the RX2 standings. Now, do remember RX2 is the introduction to Racecraft Rallycross. Fixed setups for these drivers, but it's a tie at the top. Kane Lasky's got 2 victories this season, but Sebastian Broberg joined the fun last time, had only done 7 days of Rallycross and won in his very first outing in RX2. It was a blockbuster performance from him and Iowa Dane, but it's going to be interesting here because this is a very different sort of a track, a very different sort of a challenge to what we were dealing with last time out.
Yeah, obviously Iowa, very flat. One of the flattest tracks that we've got in all of the IRX calendar. It's a small oval, and the banking is not that great when you do get up onto the banking at Iowa. Brands Hatch is anything but. You have a lot of elevation change here, and yeah, it's just a completely different beast of a circuit.
Absolutely. Qualifying going to be somewhat important, I would think, here, mostly because in the 5-lap heat, it's a short run to turn one. We've seen plenty of drama. You want to stay towards the front, stay out of trouble. Then, of course, 5-lap LCQs, all builds to the 10-lap feature. I think likely going to be one of the longer days that we have, just by the fact that this is the longest track actually amongst the IRX schedule. Remember, 8 incident limit, which means drivers get a bit more liberty at RX2 compared to RX1 to get physical, to get the elbows out, Dane.
Yep, and I feel like here at Brands Hatch, from what we've been seeing over the last couple of years since this circuit was introduced, and it really has been that long now, wow, but yeah, they're going to need all 8 of those instant points, I feel like, because we get some interesting action going on at this place. It just inspires chaos everywhere you look. I mean, you think about Graham Hill Bend, you can think, oh, you turn to the left. Most of the time, we're following the Indy layout of Brands Hatch. This is great. We turn left. No. How about we just keep going straight into the grass runoff area and then do a sharp U-turn in cars that don't like to turn on dirt? That sounds like a great idea.
It's always a lot of fun, but it's going to be interesting halfway through the season. Remember, 2 drop rounds. How do these drivers look forward? They start with qualifying being in the books. It's Heat 1 on the deck. It's Dylan Baldwin on pole position. Our winner, first time out at Phoenix. What can he do with Ollie Honker alongside Sebastian Broberg? Our winner 7 days ago has Robbie Kirtley for company on row 2 with Howell and Brown behind them. Rolling from 7th, it's going to be Jurgen Malucha with Eric Dubois and Ross Kaiser rounding out the 9 cars, who will be fanned out 2 by 2 on the regular Grand Prix start. Short blast into turn number 1, up through the gears and as quickly back down through them, hoping not to pitch the car around. As you see the car squirming underneath you, underneath the braking of these very interesting four-wheel drive machines. Baldwin, you'd think, has the best starting spot, but you can be pinched down on the inside. Dane Bear knows Baldwin's got to get the launch right here. Ready to go, though, for the second half of the RX2 season here in Brands Hatch. Terrible start from Baldwin initially. Who gets the best run, though, in towards turn number 1? Ford Fiesta causes chaos, and Baldwin's able to survive. I was about to say add 1 to the flip counter, but the wall saved us for a moment there. Baldwin leads. Down through the hill, though, Howell behind Dubois in third. It's Ollie Honka that got the worst of it.
Yeah, Baldwin had a terrible start. You really cursed that one, but got away with it because of the carnage that did come through that chicane as well. And now they're making their way up and over the jump. It's a tricky one. You do get quite a lot of airtime, and if you get that slightly wrong, you're going for a wild ride. Everybody running a little bit deep into this dirt hairpin at Graham Hill Bend, as I was talking about earlier. We've already had, it looks like, our first retirement.
Yeah, Broberg back in pit lane. Do remember, you can take the Joker the first time by because we have crossed the finish line already. It's a bumpy, slightly shorter Joker in terms of distance, works out longer in terms, though, of time because of just how difficult it can be. On the brakes, down through the gears, though, into turn 1. Just watch the transition. It's a sharp transition off the tarmac onto the dirt, set up on the right-hand side into the chicane. Gotta be careful with the anti-cut curbs on the right, straddle them as much as possible, but be careful not to take too much and grab yourself a slowdown penalty. This then at Druids is one of those interesting corners where the line changes depending on the evolution of the track. It's one of those corners as well, Dane, that always adds a little bit of controversy.
Yeah, well, because of that, you can get drivers that go, the entire way around the outside of the course, trying to get into the gravel trap on the outside when the track is fresh and the dirt is quite slippy, just to get some extra grip. This is my favorite part of the course because if you get it wrong, you go over the fence. So bumpy is this Joker. You can see up and down wheel bounce, bang, all 4 wheels up in the air through the Joker. Even though it's a shortcut in terms of distance, you're slower through there and then you lose time all the way down the main straight.
Yep. Nice to see again a mix of Beetles, Fiestas, and Subarus in the field in RX2. Going to be again likely more dominated by the Subarus in RX1 later on. So only Howell for the time being has taken to the Joker inside of the top 4. Kirtley as well has taken the treacherous Joker. Lab! Baldwin gets the jump wrong, able to correct himself, and now hopefully doesn't get a slowdown.
Yeah, but I feel like you might just be able to get away with that one. A little bit of a tap to the wall as well. And that's an interesting camera angle right there. And now, not taking to the Joker. There's the Joker just on the inside of this final corner, which is tricky in its own right. But you throw a whole lot of bumps and some dirt on the equation and put some walls on either side as well. Yeah, it just gets that much more difficult. This is probably one of the more difficult Jokers to get right in the IRX calendar.
Malucha has taken to the Joker this time by, and is going to slot out behind Ollie Honka as he rejoins. Remember, 2 advance from this to the feature. So, as it sits right now, Baldwin still in a comfortable spot with Brown in 3rd. Still yet to take to that inside line through that final corner. A little bit more coordinated over the jump this time by, although getting the front end of the car much higher up relative to the ground. The Beetle seems a lot more planted working over the jump. Not be shocked if we see Baldwin take to the Joker this time by.
Yep, definitely wouldn't be. And Brands Hatch is one of those interesting circuits. We always like to think about these circuits where the Joker goes directly, it exits directly onto the start-finish straight, or wherever the start-finish line is, because you often want to figure out, are you gaining time or losing time heading onto that start-finish line? And Brands Hatch is one of those where you kind of want to take it on the last lap if you can afford to. I feel like Baldwin was getting caught a little bit by Howell there and just needed the extra safety, but Howell right on the tail here as we have taken the white flag.
And snatched that right front as well under braking, so not ideal situations. Now, Baldwin's got to remember that as it sits right now, these two are both comfortable. Don't really want to try and squabble over starting spots if you can guarantee a place in the feature.
Yep, and 3rd and 4th position, Brown and Honka as well. Neither of them have taken to the Joker either, so they're going to fall a little bit further back. But you kind of want that front row starting position. If you're one of these two drivers, if you're Hal, you're kind of eyeing up that first spot. You're not going to take any ridiculous risks, but if there's an opportunity, I'm sending it.
Brown and Honka will send it into the bumpy Joker this time by, but front of the field. Disappointing start initially, but watched on the left as Ollie Honka got turfed on the run into turn 1. Baldwin grabs the victory in Heat 1 with Howell in close pursuit, both advancing directly to the 10-lap feature. It's Brown in front of Honka, 3rd and 4th position. Malucha and the rest will come across the line to situate themselves in LCQ number 1. Bit of damage on the front of Eric Dubois' Subaru STI. Just get the hammer out and the left front will be back in showroom shape in absolutely no time. 2 DNFs in that one, interestingly, and it included last week's winner, Sebastian Broberg. Is Baldwin and Howell that advance? Brown, Honka, Malucha, Kirtley, Dubois, Kaiser, and Broberg. The rest of those that will head to the LCQs. But meanwhile, heat number 2 getting ready to rumble. It's our championship leader, at least one of them, Kane Lasky, that runs from the front with Evan McFarlane alongside. Sean Winkler and Greg Johnson roll from row 2 with Zach Mitchell and Tyler Schell, 5th and 6th positions. It's Matthew Morris and Ovin Anderson, 7th and 8th, with the engines already in song as we're ready to go for heat number 2. Great start from the outside of the front row, but who plays pinball on the run to turn 1? Onto the anchors they'll go, and already turned behind. First, second, and third safely on through. It's Johnson and Anderson that tangled with one another. It's going to be McFarlane that leads from Lasky as they run up towards Druids. Who's brave as we get lap number 1 into the books?
Sending it through, and there's a driver, the first driver we've seen in RX2 so far to take that weird line through Druid's hairpin and take all the gravel on the outside. It's a little bit grippier than the dirt when it's nice and fresh, and first person that we've been seeing do that, McFarlane. Leading now, but so much pressure being put on by Lasky, and Winkler has the best seat in the house.
Sean Winkler with virtual reality as well. Must be an interesting experience, I'm sure. Has made the feature every single time this season. Now McFarlane, not sure what happened there. Did he get pinched? Did he yoink the handbrake rather Lasky by accident because he hit himself into the wall, seemingly without any sort of contact? Winkler will shape to the outside, and as the front end pitches down under braking, Lasky very sideways, but somehow in control.
Winkler backed out of that one hard and towards turn number 1. That could be a slowdown for Winkler there. Took so much of the curb, but definitely right on the back of Lasky as they make their way through Druids. Now once again, little bit of contact and beating and banging side by side, up and over the jump they go.
Yeah, not sure that's you want to be side by side up and over the jump. Remember, 5 laps already, 1 in the books means that for these 4 cars that are breaking away at the front of the field, 1 of them per lap effectively likely to take to the Joker, Matthew Morris. That car is definitely going to need a bit of work on it after this race. He's really pulling some left hand down to try and get it turned, but turned it did. Front of the field, by the way, like I was saying, for the 4 machines that were squabbling at the front, you want to try and filter yourself out one by one, and so as we come across the line, still McFarlane from Lasky, from Winkler 1, 2, and 3. No Jokers from then, but Mitchell did decide to take to the long lap this time by.
Yeah, that he did, and getting out of this train of cars, it's always helpful just to give yourself some clear air if you can, and get the all the onus on the other drivers to try and keep themselves in front of you, especially if you're just chilling at the back of that train. It's not where you want to be. Just other drivers that are distracting you. Whereas now you put yourself maybe a second or 2 behind, and you can try and catch back up to them. It's a much easier target.
I'm impressed by the stack of bottles behind for Sean Winkler. Hopefully that was not all collected just last night, but it doesn't seem to be showing the after effects of it if it was. Through the Joker nice and comfortably, really in control. Going to be clear of Mitchell to the tune of 2 full seconds, and now Winkler will get some clean air, and seeing how Lasky has been wild through turn 1 the last handful of laps, Winkler a little bit more calm and in control. Will try and at the very least leapfrog the 29 to grab a spot in the feature.
Yeah, at this point, if you're Lasky, you kind of have to take the Joker now because you really don't want to risk Winkler catching up to you. You want to get back in front where you can use that super and make that super as wide as possible in some of these sections, but it can be somewhat tricky to overtake. There, you can definitely send it up the inside, but if you can make your car wide enough, some of these sections are definitely one line and one line only. And that can make things difficult. Let's see what does Lasky choose.
Surely.
Exactly, down the Joker.
In control initially, but now watch on the merge. It will be Winkler with a bit more speed in the on the run to turn 1. But Lasky has really made the most of that Joker and should have enough of a buffer to hold that second and final transfer spot. McFarlane will Joker on the final lap. Remember, 2 advance to the feature.
And Lasky definitely using the car's rotation much more than anybody else in turn 1. Everyone else taking it more like a regular road course racing line. Definitely sending it in sideways to a lot of these corners. That looks like it might be a little bit too much there. Winkler's going to have a look.
Going to open the door for a battle into the final couple of corners. McFarlane should be clear now and settle in terms of grabbing the victory for heat number 2. Can Winkler, though, make his way straight to what would be a 6th consecutive feature this season? Or is Kane Lasky going to deprive him? McFarlane overly committed and bogs down, loses a whole bunch of time. Is this the opportunity for Lasky and Winkler? Surely not. McFarlane clear at the front. Winkler not close enough to give a send to Lasky. McFarlane and Lasky 1 and 2 in heat number 2.
That was a very good race. And now we see the Ford Fiesta. That car was not turning early. You can see full lock to the left and the car kept going straight on the dirt. Like, the cars don't like to turn at the best of times in the dirt, but if you get like that much damage, it's a problem.
It reminded me of the tire warming yesterday in a certain World Championship.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Did you watch the broadcast yesterday, Dane?
I didn't, but I have heard some things.
I was going to say, you might have enjoyed my question to Johnny Vecchio. He had to be quite diplomatic in his answer. Here's a look at the results. McFarlane and Lasky through, but only half a second back for Sean Winkler, who did look like he was looking comfortable. Let's go over, though, and grab a look at Heat 3 and how they'll line up because they're ready to rumble. Keenan Kusin on the front row with Istvan Titz alongside. Wegner, Teal, Grady, Pichel, Hoffman, and Valentine already ready to rumble for Heat number 3 here in Brands Hatch. Can the Subaru get a good launch from the inside, or is Keenan Kusin going to see the Fiesta find the long way around? Committed, Kusin sideways and on the handbrake, gets some contact but checks them up, 3 and 4 abreast. It's Kusin that goes around, but Vince Pichel leads them into turn number 3.
5 wide. I think I saw 5 wide there. Somehow we've only got 8 cars on the grid and 5 of them managed to get all next to each other coming out of turn 1. Absolute craziness there, and somehow someone, I don't think anybody expected from the grid to make their way up into the front, Pichel, to get their way all the way in front and lead us through him, and now a little bit deep in Graham Hill Bend, and now he's going to have the Ford Fiesta right on the rear bumper.
It was about 1.5 seconds slower in qualifying than pole was Vince Pichel, and he'll take to the Joker at the first time of asking, but he gets it wrong and grinds himself. Tony Hawk style on the wall, now gets a shove from the Volkswagen Beetle as well as ex-Valentine. Just adds a little bit more drama to the situation. End of lap 1 sees Istvan Titz leading from Trevor Teal, from Rene Wegner, from Kenny Hoffman. Vince Pichel goes from hero to 0.
And it was joined by 2 other drivers hitting the wall on the outside of the Joker as well. I told you it's a tricky one to get right. It really, really is. And well, we've just had proof of that right there. And Pichel, yeah, like you said, was loving life up at the front all of a sudden, and then bang into the Joker, and it all went downhill.
On board with Keenan Kusin, and to be fair, I'm not surprised that he looks pretty miserable right now because it was looking so good until it was not. Again, remember, I'm pretty sure you're right. It was 5 wide.
Like, how does that even happen? They start so far apart from each other in terms of like the rows.
Insane. Just the way it all concertinas up and stacks up, it's pretty crazy. It would have been Tom Grady, the other one of the 3 cars that had some sort of connection with the wall. Vince Pichel, of course, being the other. Hex Valentine, the Beetle that ran into the stricken number 82. Let's go back and take a look at this one, and maybe from up above, because it will really give you a sense of how you're funneled on in under the brakes. You see the front end pitches down. Kusin yoinks on the handbrake. 4 wide maybe.
Yeah, 4.
Kusin gets the touch, and to be honest, it was the overcommitment initially that really sealed the fate of the 03.
Yeah, it was an overcommitment, and that really checked up Istvan Tits as well, because he then had nowhere to go on the outside, because now the outside's occupied by a sideways Subaru. So you got to try and make your way to the inside, and that just slowed everybody up and just caused a whole lot of issues for a whole lot of drivers. And we see now another one of the Ford Fiestas making their way through the Joker, much smoother this time. Still getting all four wheels up in the air a couple times over the bumps.
On board with, I believe, your race leader, yes, the Ford Fiesta of Istvan Tits, remember, tied with Kane Lasky, and so will want to take maximum points out of this heat race. 8 points for first, 7 for second, etc., down through the cars. Keeping it tight to the inside, up and over the jump. See them get a bit more nose happy than I necessarily would have thought that you would have wanted to be, but I guess it works for them. Sliding their way through what I think is a rather tricky addition to the track, going a little bit deeper and then having to keep it tight as you run up through the hill. Tits is still yet to Joker, as is Wegner. Teal is in the spot where he could at the very least challenge the 77.
As Kenny Hoffman now on board, a little bit deep. Not so used to the turning right is the pro driver and the sprint cars over on the dirt oval side of things.
Oh yeah, it's always good when we get that sort of crossover. We have Tyler Schell as well, the World of Outlaws champion in the sprint cars, I want to say, late models, one of the two. My memory's failing me. I spent the morning ranting about driving standards and BMW competition. It was fantastic. Wegner Jokers in front of Teal on the final lap. Tits is clear at the front, so it's very much the battle for second, the battle for the final transfer spot.
Big old whip of the handbrake there for the 77. Ooh, getting up into the wall a little bit for Wegner there. But with a couple drivers behind, obviously, still needing to take the Joker, it looks like that 77 is pretty safe through, and Istvan Tits has had a very easy ride.
Absolutely. 3 cars have shown their prowess already, and they're 3 of the favorites in the championship at the very front. Wegner as well will advance with the number 2 Ford Fiesta. We're going to see Teal, Hoffman, Kusin, Valentine, Grady, and Pichel all enjoyed a bit of a tumultuous ride here at Brands Hatch for heat number 3. We get 5 more laps to go for, I think, what will be one of 3 transfer spots in 2 more last chance qualifiers. That Legion Speed Sports car of Tom Grady, much worse for the wear.
The front right tire is literally not touching the ground.
Is it not?
It's levitating.
Oh wow, okay. I mean, magic suspension, magic air suspension, maybe magic carpet suspension. I think I'm allowed to make that joke. Let's grab a look at the results quickly before we look at the heat. The grid rather, for last chance qualifier number 1. Tits and Wegner confirmed advancing. Teal, Hoffman, Kusin, and Valentine. We'll see them across the next couple of races. Ready to go for 5 more laps. Nathan Brown and Trevor Teal on the front row, with Zach Mitchell and Jürgen Malucha behind them. Keenan Kusin will have to try and make redemption for what happened at the start with Matthew Morris, Eric Dubois, Tom Grady, and Tyler Schell. Sprint car champion in the 410 Wings, starting at the very back of the 9 car, last chance qualifier number 1. 9 enter, 3 advance with 5 laps on the board. It's a good start from the outside once again. Kusin getting a good launch and going to be a little bit more conservative, you'd feel. 3 wide for a moment. Is he going to get hung out to dry? No, this time around the outside. Keenan Kusin swarms his way up to second as they traffic jam up behind him. Trevor Teal leads them at the very front with Kusin in second and Dubois in third. Chaos behind.
Yeah, and that chaos has pretty much ended any driver's hopes that were lower than maybe 4th position of getting their way into the feature. They've been held up massively by that, whether they were caught up in it or just had to avoid it. Oh!
Dubois now in the wall through that extension at the track, and he's not going to get out of that one. Brown, the one that receives the 3rd and final transfer spot. Remember, Teal and Kusin look comfortable for the time being, but still 4 laps left to go, and already a handful have found out just how treacherous and difficult Brands Hatch can truly be.
There's a couple drivers here as well that did make that mistake into the Joker, so at some point they're going to have to come down, and we'll see what their redemption will look like, as it's not over yet for the actual lead of this race, as Looks like Keenan is all over the back of Trevor Teal here, looking for that top spot.
But I'll ask you this, Dane. Do you go for first versus second, knowing it's really just one row better? Well, you say yes. Teal concedes as Kusin goes down the inside as easy as you'd like. A look of steely determination maybe now from Kusin after that mistake, and focused on grabbing the best possible spot he can in the feature.
Straight into the Joker as well goes Teal there. But, you know, if there's a big enough gap here and I trust the other driver, then I'm going to go for it. Teal hitting the wall on the outside of the Joker there again, not quite getting that one correctly. But, yeah, if I trust the other driver enough, so basically if I'm not racing against Jakob Rafos, then, yeah, I'll probably go for it.
That little gremlin. I mean, there is something to be said about some of these young drivers. I was chatting with Mitchell de Jong yesterday before the Porsche Esports Super Cup broadcast. He joined us as a Go commentator. And Paul Smith was there at Graniau as part of the Le Mans virtual stuff that they were doing, and they were just talking about Bryn Collins, Charlie Collins' brother, and what a little devil he is.
Well, I mean, Charlie Collins already isn't the oldest driver on the grid of anything. Like,
I mean, Charlie's like 19, isn't he?
Yes, Charlie's younger than me, and that takes some doing. So,
yeah, but he's not. He's an adult now.
Yes.
He's not a child. He's an adult.
No, but that doesn't make him not young.
No, I know. I'm trying to make myself feel less old, okay? I'm only 28. I'm only 29 this year.
Lewis is younger than you, so you got that going.
No, I don't. Lewis is younger than me. I don't have that going for me. Keenan Kusin, still yet to Joker. He's going to likely, I think, grab it this lap if he thinks he's got the gap to Trevor Teal. I saw Jürgen Malucha had an issue. He dropped to 7th spot. Brown and Shell run 3rd and 4th and separated by 4 and a bit odd seconds. I don't really think we've got much of a battle for the transfer spots right now.
No, that first or second corner of wreck kind of sorted everything out for us. Everyone sort of spread right out, and as we have another couple of incidents, I feel like it's all pretty said and done. There you go, Ryan making you feel a bit better there, Arjun, I hope?
Yes, no, Ryan, our producer, letting us know that he's 40 years old. Although, to be fair, who is the oldest person in sim racing? That's a good question. I don't know how old Sean Ambrose is.
Well, you've got a whole lot of people in the 60-plus racing adventures.
True. There are a lot
of like epic 80s and stuff like that. You know, like they've got.
Do they have epic 80s?
I think something along those lines.
They have super 70s, that's for sure.
Yeah, they must have something like that. They've got a lot of people that are.
Well, I know what the youngest drivers on iRacing are. Yes, they say the terms of service is 13 years old.
No.
That didn't happen on national television. Was it last year or the year before? Turns out you just need to be related to a NASCAR driver, and you can find your way onto the iRacing service on national television. Keenan Kusin will take the Joker of the final lap. Bumpy Joker, and just watch the way it pitches itself around. That's the challenge that drivers will be dealing with through the course of the feature, of course, but also once we get to RX1 later on. Keenan Kusin, you can see what it means, the relief to make up for the mistake, makes his way forward. With Teal, Brown looking good to advance. It'll be Tyler Schell, Zach Mitchell, as well as Tom Grady, Jürgen Malucha, Eric Dubois, and Matthew Morris that we say goodbye to, Dane.
Yep, unfortunately, that's the way it works here in Rallycross. Eventually, your day is over, and sometimes that's a little bit earlier than the feature. But Brands Hatch has claimed some victims, and it really is. It does feel like that, doesn't it? Brands Hatch, the circuit, the Rallycross circuit specifically, it really does sort of have a mind of its own, and you can go through it as many times as you like. You're always going to have a different experience, especially when you throw 9 other drivers out on the circuit with you as well.
Absolutely. Here's a look at the results and confirmation. Kusin, Teal, Mitchell moving on through. Let's grab a look at the starting grid for LCQ number 2. 10 drivers, 3 more spots. How much more interesting will the second LCQ be? Can we survive the run down through turns 1, 2, and 3? Winkler and Honka at the front with Hoffman, Johnson, Kirtley, and Valentine through the front 3 rows. It's going to be Anderson, Kaiser, Pichel, and Broberg through the 10. Sebastian Broberg, a winner 7 days ago, has a lot of work to do just to make it to a feature in his second appearance here in Racecraft TV Rallycross 2. Just waiting for Robbie Kirtley in the Fiesta to take to the grid. And as he does so, the drivers turn their attention up towards the lights. and begin to rev their engines. Great start from Honka once again, bogging down rows 2 and 3 slightly. On the brakes, Winkler giving enough room to Honka, but some sends from behind. Honka at the very least survives the trip down through turn 1. They batter behind, they run into the wall. Winkler sweeps on through and takes the lead.
I'm not sure if you get a penalty, like what the penalty is, if it's a slowdown or if it's a black flag penalty, but sometimes I just feel like it would be worth just driving straight through the signage at the exit of turn 1 and just take regular paddock kill then.
Oh! That was Greg Johnson and Ross Kaiser, I think, that came together. It was Kaiser that's now back at the very tail end of the grid. Physical lap number 1. We always say it gets more physical as we work through the course of the proceedings, and as per usual, we're being proved right.
It's not called a last chance qualifier for nothing.
I know. That's not the most obvious thing ever said in sim racing, don't worry. It's that still has to be. Lewis McLeod's fantastic. He wants to tell everyone he's a 2-time Simi Award winner, but we will also remind everyone that he once said the gap's either going to increase, decrease, or stay exactly where he is.
Yeah, no, we commentators, you know, we kind of con people into thinking that we know more than the average person about what we're talking about.
I know nothing.
No, absolutely nothing. We just talk the biggest load of rubbish up sometimes. Absolutely massive contact.
Vince Pichel with the RKO out of nowhere. That was a move more out of WWE. And that was a fucking one. You can't add one to the flip counter, unfortunately.
We still can't. Why are they going backwards still?
They're still trying to figure it all out. Sebastian Broberg may be making it through to the feature.
From last on the grid, how is this even possible? This is absolutely nuts. The traffic jam at Graham Hill Bend. This is why putting walls on either side of the rallycross track in the dirt section maybe not the best idea, but also it gives us content. And let's just see how this happened. It's already happening out in front. You can see right at the top, it's already happened. And now sending it through here somehow is going to find a gap. Absolute Moses right here.
It's just patience as well. That's the other thing. There's 2 pedals. There's a brake pedal, a throttle pedal, and they work in 2 directions. You can use it more, you can use it less. And Broberg seemingly realized I don't have to use a throttle. I can wait for a little bit and then punch it. Winkler should advance. Broberg should look on through as well. Hoffman has enough for a gap back to Anderson. The question will be, can Valentine find in the next 2 laps probably a second or 2 to close the margin and put a bit more pressure onto the 11 Ford Fiesta? 365 winds its way through the last corner as Anderson ducks down to the Joker.
Yep, gets ahead of Anderson there. And that gap ahead to Hoffman, Hoffman's taken the Joker, haven't they? So yeah, it's quite a big one now, actually, if you look at it. So 3 seconds or so. Yeah, I thought that was without the...
Kenny Hoffman! Kenny Hoffman! Stranded! And Valentine straight into him! And now, can there be a potential for Anderson to grab the spot back? There's going to be a tussle for the 3rd and final transfer spot. They've got a lap and a half to go.
You can't make this stuff up. I just heard the engine sound. Like, hang on a second, someone's wrecked very close to here. So yeah, unfortunately, Hoffman, that's so weird. That was a very odd place for the car to be stranded as well. Maybe just hitting the tire bundle at turn 2, they got rid of all the tire bundles and then for some reason just added a bunch of them here at Brands Hatch.
Oh, let's not talk about tire bundles. We'll go on more rants about various driving standards that we've seen over the years. 1 more lap to go. About 1.9 kilometers for Sean Winkler at the front as he gets ready to make his way into his 6th feature in 6 races. He's had no sort of idea about what sort of a race this has been. How much drama there has been around those final 2 transfer spots. Winkler, calm, cool, and collected at the front, will ride his way through the bumpy Joker here at Brands Hatch to fight his way out of last chance qualifier number 2 to grab a spot in the 12-car, 10-lap feature event for RX2 at Brands Hatch. He's feeling it. He's ready to go for one more shot. Sean Winkler victorious in LCQ number 2. And Broberg with a miraculous recovery is going to do enough to grab second from the very back of LCQ number 2. Kenny Hoffman in his Ford Fiesta having that issue allows Hex Valentine to grab the third and final transfer spot in the feature. I'm already losing my voice. I'm already slightly out of breath.
Yeah, Brands Hatch kind of does that to you, but I'm thinking now about, you know, you've got some of the drivers here and their wreck avoidance skills. That's going to help so much when you think about them starting near to the back of the feature grid. You think about Broberg and how well he handled that situation at Great Hill Bend. That's going to help a lot.
Yeah, no. I feel like as well, these drivers have also got a bit more experience now with racing here at Brands Hatch. It's a track that I'm not sure how much drivers really will have raced around here, but I'm sure they've got plenty of hot lap experience. Now that they've been able to go wheel to wheel, drivers that advance out of Heat 1, 2, and 3 have been watching on through everything that we've just been able to watch.
Yeah, I feel like if you get through from Heat 1, which was in relative terms quite clean, you then look at the rest of these races and think, oh dear, that I've got to deal with these lot in the feature race, and I'm maybe not looking forward to that so much.
Yeah, remember again, 2 drop rounds over the course of the championship. It means that in 10 weeks, you can miss 2 weeks if you need to, or can have 2 bad rounds. Turn 1 here may dictate your choice of drop round usage. It will also dictate how much more consistent you have to be. Let's not forget that only one driver has grabbed multiple victories over the course of this season. Kane Lasky might want to try and grab a third in 6 races. However, Dylan Baldwin's looking very good and was able, after a botched start initially, to grab top spot in heat number 1.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very interesting feature race. I'm just ready to see how they get this many cars through turns 1, 2, and 3, because they've barely done it with the smaller number of drivers in the heat races. Now they've got a full grid of cars heading into that section. It is going to be very tight. I think we're going to see many more 4-wide situations. And
oh no,
how a driver's going to come out of those, and more importantly, how are their cars going to come out of those? Are we finally going to be able to add something to the flip counter, because we've got so close?
Boy.
So many times.
They've been teasing us. They've been teasing us.
So many times.
I will say, I don't know how many 4-wide moments that we can really survive. 1, 2, after that we start to run out of cars. Warm-up comes to an end. Drivers get one final opportunity to get themselves ready to go. And now 10 laps thrown onto the board. 12 cars getting ready to tussle for round number 6 of RX2 in Racecraft Rallycross. Let's run you down through the starting grid, because Dylan Baldwin's looking for his 2nd victory of the season. He's got Evan McFarlane alongside. Esteban Titz, one of the championship leaders, has Andrew Howell alongside, and Kane Lasky tied with Titz on points at the top of the championship, runs in 5th. Rene Wegner from 6th spot. We'll see Keenan Kusin and Sean Winkler, the first of those, advancing from the LCQs, with Teal, Broberg, Mitchell, and Valentine. The rest of the 12 getting ready for 10 laps. Likely to be one of the longest features of the season, the longest lap on the campaign. Remember, of course, it's all setting up for a season showdown at Sonoma. Not really one place where you want to leave your championship hopes up for grabs. You want to try and make sure you've got things a little bit more secure before then.
Yep, you can say that again.
Yeah, the bowling alley is always fun. Just waiting for Howell and Mitchell in the STI and the Fiesta to get ready onto the grid, but I think we're leaving them behind. So 10 cars turn their attention to the lights here in Brands Hatch. A rocket of a start from Esteban Titz, but Baldwin and McFarlane close the door on the Ford Fiesta, leaving a little bit more room. McFarlane sweeps around the outside, noses his car into the wall, and gives a shove to Kane Lasky, who emerges in 2nd spot. Dylan Baldwin leads up the hill into Druitt, but it's Kane Lasky that powers his way up to 2nd as they work through the right-hand hairpin.
And you got Kusin up into 4th position already as well, doing a brilliant job up there too. Great start for the 03 car, as very nearly contact is made up in towards Graham Hill Bend once again for the first time in this feature race, and a couple drivers still tussling for position.
Dylan Baldwin grabbing the feature race victory, of course, back in Phoenix. Missed out on the feature back at Daytona, but outside of that has being consistent enough to accumulate points as he needs to. McFarlane, after swinging out wide on the start, allowing the opportunity for the likes of Lasky to grab the spot away, puts the pressure onto turn one, but Lasky holds on.
Still more contact between drivers now as they make their way back through this chicane section for the second time in this race. This Van Tiet's getting all sorts of loose, heading out of turn 3 and in towards turn 4 at Drew. It's just about holds on to it and keeps it going. It's the great thing about these four-wheel drive cars.
Remember, 10 laps this race, double the length of anything we've seen so far. How does that affect drivers' Joker strategy? How is it going to affect how they manage the course of this race? Behind them, Andrew Howell gets past Van Tiet's in the number 2 Ford Fiesta. Only 4 cars jokered so far: Broberg, Valentine, Thiel, and Mitchell. Broberg now on the very back of Wegner, starting to be compromised by a bit of lap traffic. Not the ideal situation. Watch the line from Dylan Bolden as well on that run into turn 1. Sets it up initially on the right side of the track because he then straight lines the braking zone, sweeps it to the right and over onto the dirt.
And the different lines being taken by the drivers through this hairpin once again. The track is, relatively speaking, quite worn at this point, as well as we're almost ending at 3 wide here. A bit of contact being made. This is the battle for 5th position. It's a little bit sideways up in front. They're making contact over the jump, and that's going to send the Fiesta out sideways.
That was Broberg, remember, early joker, and that's really now hurt him. He's going to drop to the very back of the field, tumbling down. Our race winner last time out at Iowa had fought back to the feature after finishing dead last in his heat. It's not going to go his way in this main event. Baldwin still leads though from Lasky and Kusin at the front. Van Tiet's has taken to the joker and runs now in 5th position. Will start to put the pressure onto Andrew Howell, but a margin has opened up in front between 3rd and 4th positions to the tune of almost 4 full seconds. It's 3 cars at the front fighting for the win.
It is indeed, and realistically, how much fighting can Lasky and Kusin do here, because Baldwin's really starting to extend that advantage out in front. Still plenty of time left in this race for literally anything to happen, especially in Brands Hatch. But that 67 looking really strong for this entire event so far.
Not even halfway through this feature event either. Still yet to work on to lap 5 of 10. McFarlane has an issue. He drops down to 10th position behind Thiel, behind Valentine. This has been an intriguing event, not necessarily as physical as some of the other races, which have felt more crazy, but by no means has this been a calm, cool, collected opening to today's proceedings. On board with Valentine in the Volkswagen Beetle, the only of the one of the Beetles amongst the 12 cars in the feature.
Very, very different lines being taken here. The Wipers going into overdrive as they make their way very close proximity through the first couple of corners. Back up near to the front. Lasky's caught up a bit there, it looks like, to Baldwin.
Yeah, I don't think this is done and dusted just yet. I definitely feel like Lasky's going to put the pressure on. He's a little bit wilder in some of these corners than some of the others. Turn 1 of note, we've talked about his different approach to that particular corner compared to his competitors. If these two fight, Keenan Kusin only about 1.3, 1.4 seconds back as well in a second purple machine. And so, ready to latch on to the top 2 if they do trip up over one another. On board, the look of focus on Kusin's face as he searches for what would be his 2nd podium in 3 races.
Now through Druids once again, as we always do love to see into the driver setups themselves. A couple of drivers here running VR. Kusin not going for that option.
Just going to run himself for the time being in towards the final couple of corners. Lasky blinks and really commits on that joker entry. Commits beautifully as well. Pitched the car in, and as it landed, it settled and pirouetted through. Lasky will hold off Kusin potentially on that merge through the joker exit. Kusin with the superior top-end speed will go to the outside line. Lasky's not going to sit down and let him take this though. Lasky holds 2nd.
Yeah, but if you're Kusin right now, you know you got to get ahead and you got to get a gap as well if you want to be able to make anything happen after taking your Joker, because it is obviously a longer route in terms of time. You take up more time, you're going to lose time to the drivers around you. And Baldwin right now thinking, yes, please battle and save me some hassle.
I think Kusin already recognized that his chance for the victory had gone. It's really now the chance for second that he's going to try. Although Lasky a bit wide down out through that extension. It's going to cost him a bit more lap time. Will Kusin stick behind the 29, or will he use the extra speed and tuck to the right? He'll look to the Joker. You could see less committed on the entry, but he's now going to try and get some clean air and try and put the pressure onto Dylan Baldwin, who will take 3 laps to go and still is yet to Joker.
Yep, that gap looking very large now indeed. And Baldwin out in front still, of course, has to take to the Joker. Lasky sending it through the first corner.
Send it as well.
Really sending it, but it's almost like it's under control. It just looks wild compared to almost all the other drivers there in RX2 who are really conservative with their approach to it, really taking a nice straight braking zone and turning in, trying to keep the car going in a straight line rather than sending it sideways.
I don't know. I don't feel like I don't feel like that approach is necessarily the fastest, just knowing what the limited knowledge that I have of how iRacing's tires work here, these GRC spec tires. Usually being in control is better than not being in control.
Yeah, in general, you want to try and point the car in the direction you want it to go rather than any other direction. It's just usually the fastest way, but there are some occasions.
Whoa, well that's a bit too overcommitted. Somehow does not run himself into the wall though. Full credit to Lasky. He's sending it, overly sending it. Hop, skips and jumps over the anti-cut curbs, hopefully not with a slowdown penalty. But now Lasky more concerned about where Keenan Kusin is than where Baldwin is going to be.
So I reckon what's happened there is Lasky has got us in their headset. They are listening to us right now and thinking, oh, well, you say that it's not the fastest way around the track. I'll show you sending it, and then does that.
Dylan Baldwin very, very committed, but to the inside on that Joker entry, nice and tidily through. Exits over the bumps and merges to take the white flag. Clear of those behind, 1.9 kilometers to go. Dylan Baldwin leads at Brands Hatch.
Yep, lovely. That's exactly what you want from taking your Joker. A lovely, clean track.
Oh, Baldwin made a mistake! And then Lasky gets tipped by Baldwin as he tries to recover. Where's Keenan Kusin in all of this? Mr. Aero HD slides his way up through the hill into Druid and searches for the inside.
I thought it was a bit strange. We go on board Lasky and all of a sudden Baldwin's not there. I thought that's a bit strange, and then the contact is made. They're side by side to Graham Hill Bend. Baldwin on the inside. Kusin going all the way around the outside. Is that smoke stick? It is.
What a move from Keenan Kusin. Window of opportunity opened on the final lap of the race, and the artist formerly known as Mr. Aero HD will watch in the rearview mirrors as Dylan Baldwin searches for a way to recover the lead. A punch of the fist. Keenan Kusin is a winner in Racecraft Rallycross RX2. You can see what it means. It's been an up and down start to the year, on and off the track for Keenan Kusin. Oh, but victory at Brands Hatch as they spin across the line behind him will feel oh so sweet after all that it's taken.
What a nuts way to finish that race. It was crazy the whole way through, and then all of a sudden the leaders are wrecking into each other, and suddenly the driver in third place, who we had all written off, suddenly ends up out on top. How do you write stuff like that?
Here's a look at the results with Kusin in front of Baldwin and Lasky. What a moment for Aerotech in that 03. Andrew Howell and Istevantits will round out the top 5 with Winkler, McFarlane, Teal, Wegner and Mitchell rounding out to the top 10. Remember, 2 more drivers as well, 11th and 12th positions. But let's go quickly and grab a replay of Dylan Baldwin's mistake on that final lap in towards turn number 1 that first opened the door for Kane Lasky, but then ripped it away before it presented the opportunity to the one, the only, the man of the moment, Keenan Kusin. Baldwin almost does the Lasky initially, and then just slightly too committed as he tries to rejoin. Lasky does absolutely nothing wrong. And there was Kusin with a beautiful move down through Graham Hill Bend to grab the victory.
Sending up the inside the Druids here and getting side by side. Now this is the most impressive part, is it's round the outside to Graham Hill, just absolutely sends it. A little bit of contact is made and gets a really good exit down the hill as well, and then from here on in, it's never a question as to who's coming out on top.
Baldwin tried, but it wasn't to be. We've got to quickly work our way through a couple of interviews here. What a dramatic round of RX2 that was. Let's grab a couple of words with our race winner, Mr. Keenan Kusin, round the outside and a victor now. I mean, we saw what it meant, Keenan. How happy are you feeling?
Man, I just wanted to come back from Iowa and not embarrass myself. I didn't prep enough for that round, and I was super inconsistent, and it was just like, I don't care if I get lap one, turn one, or whatever that happened. I just want to make sure I do all I can to make sure I'm ready for the round, and got a lot of practice this week, with a lot of the RX2 guys hosting sessions, and learned a lot, and wasn't really impressed with my first heat there. I slid up right in front of Isfan and gave him nowhere to go and kind of put myself on the back foot, but I never gave up, man, and it proofs in the pudding. I was happy with the top 5 today, but look where we are.
Rest of the season still yet to come. You got some momentum on your side. How are you feeling about your car and your performance in Rallycross now?
I mean, I don't want to say I'm a Rallycross rookie, but it's my first season in Racecraft, trying to challenge myself, and learning a lot faster than I expected. This is only one round. I think Brands Hatch really meshed with my driving style well, with my drifting background, and being able to flick the car on with the weight and everything. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Regardless of what happens, I didn't think I'd be anywhere near the podium this year. So good points today. Check that off the box, and hopefully we can capitalize on momentum for the rest of the season.
Well, you did yoink the handbrake a few times today, so I'm sure that drifting came in handy. Congratulations on the victory. We'll see you in 7 days' time. We'll head on over to the second step of the podium, though. Dylan Baldwin, a mistake on the final lap. Dane Baird standing by.
Well, Dylan, welcome back to the broadcast booth, and so close to another victory this season, but didn't quite work out for you in the end.
Yeah, I was really trying to. I knew he was catching me. Kane, he's a really good driver, and I was just trying to pace myself, but my brakes were getting hot to the end, and I should have just played it safe. And I even broke earlier than I did, and I think I hit it a little slightly too much. I mean, you gotta be so perfect, and that little too much just caused me to lock up all the way going to the corner. And I tried to hit the handbrake to save it. There's really, once you blow that corner, there's no saving it. I do want to congratulate Keenan. I knew that win meant a lot to him, and he's a class act racer, and it was cool to see him win. And his pass on me was impressive. Like, I don't know if that's gonna work, but he made it work. He's a good driver.
Yeah, that was a very impressive pass at the end, and a very impressive performance from yourself, Dylan, as well. Thank you very much for joining us here, and congratulations for that second place for you. We'll see you next time out in Barcelona.
Yes, thank you.
Good time to chat with our top 2 at the very least, but we've got to run. RX2's in the books, RX1 getting ready to rumble. We'll be right back on Racecraft TV, live from Brands Hatch.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Well, RX2, as always, did not disappoint, but now RX1 gets the full attention on Racecraft TV. Welcome back to Brands Hatch. Let's quickly run you down through the schedule, the standings, and everything you need to know with the drivers already done and dusted with qualifying. Second half of the season starts now. Of course, next up, a trip over to Barcelona, Lucas Oil, a week off, and then Charlotte and Sonoma to close the page on the Season 1 in 2023. Quick look as well at how the standings are looking, of course, with 5 rounds in the books, and well, with Jacob Rafos looking almost untouchable. He's had one brief blip. Outside of that, 4 wins in 5 rounds. Josh Fox with the victory back at Atlanta continues to put the pressure on him, while Jarno Leskinen, late addition to the series, slowly working his way to the very front for Williams Esports. And with that said, Jarno Leskinen, quick when it counts in qualifying once again. Let's run you down through the starting grid for heat number 1 for the RX1 drivers. It's a Williams Esports 1 and 2, and they know that they're going to have to work together with just 2 transfer spots on the line. Jukka Pakala and then Connor Parisi share row 2 with Santeri Heiskanen and Steve Ainge, 5th and 6th positions. Josh Klog, Robbie Larrill, and then Bodie Kreider through the 9 in this first heat of the night. Just 2 heats, a slightly smaller field, but already the drivers turn their attention towards the lights with 2 spots in the feature on the line in heat number 1. It's a good start from the Williams drivers initially, but then Pakala pulls alongside for a moment. Leskinen sees Fox the long way around, will leave just enough room for Williams Esports to run 1 and 2 down through the hill, tucking into line and coordinating with one another. Fox a little bit wide and wild over the curb. Leskinen back down the inside as Josh Fox takes the line that no one wants to talk about and is going to take the race lead.
Well, they're still side by side now, the 2 teammates, of course, with Williams Esports, and well, Fox just about gets that one done, but I thought even that was a bit of an aggressive send into the gravel trap, but no, there's so much grip out there, especially in these opening laps of the first heat races.
On board with this fantastic camera angle. I mean, it really feels like Jarno Leskinen is sitting in the car. Yeah, I feel at this point, not expecting much out of this feature, rather this heat. We're just gonna wait and see for these 2 Williams Esports drivers. They'll take the Joker in coordination, and then likely, even though Pakala, Parisi, Clark, Heiskanen, Ainge, and Larrill will try and keep close, it's gonna be a tall order for them. Connor Parisi rides in the wide virtual reality and hunts Jukka Pakala as Josh Fox once again goes searching for the grip.
Oh, Up and over the jump, there you go. And yeah, probably the widest VR headset that you can get, I would imagine, at least on a consumer level at this moment. Racing rocking that Pimax headset. Definitely want to try and get my hands on one of those because they look awesome. They do make you look kind of funny when you're wearing them there. Like, they are huge.
As a former virtual reality driver, I feel like virtual reality is perfect for rallycross, for the off-road racing, for short stuff where you can just look around. Now, I very much regret some of my endeavors doing endurance racing in a VR headset. Yeah.
Although, to be fair, the first time I ever got VR, I got it like 2 days before Petit Le Mans. Have we just had another crash at turn 2?
I don't think so.
It sounded like it, but maybe my eyes are deceiving me. But yeah, first time I ever had VR, like 2 days later, I did Petit Le Mans in it, and it saved me massively. Someone spun on my inside into the chicane, and I didn't see it until like it just saw it at the corner of my eye. I would never have seen that any other time, and I managed to avoid it just about. So endurance racing in VR, it can be very stressful.
Here we go, Leskinen to the Joker. Now, he seems to not be using a proper round steering wheel. He seems to have like a hybrid Formula round wheel.
A lot of pro drivers have that, and it's because you do a lot of road stuff, and it's kind of normal. You want your wheel to be as light as possible, so you kind of don't want the big, heavy rally rims. And then you kind of get used to it. Although, having said that, Lessen's just smacked into the inside wall there at turn 1. You can see the damage on the front of the car as well. Not ideal, but doesn't seem to have held him up too much.
As long as it's not majorly affecting the steering, it's not going to be too much of an issue. Now remember, Fox and Leskinen will now fight effectively over what is going to be spot number 1 in the starting grid for the feature. Leskinen is wheeling because he's really trying to put pressure onto Fox. Is the Pennsylvania native going to respond this lap? I would be arguing that it would be wise to at least consider it, although staying out for this one. Fox will take the Joker, the last trip around for heat number 1. They come to the line, one more lap for them to go.
And Fox way out in front still. Back to Conor Parisi in that 4th position. You've got Josh Clogg up ahead. These two battled quite a lot recently. Clogg a little bit deep into turn 1 there as well, but now through this turn 2 and 3 complex, you got to really commit to it. But this wall here on the outside of that 3rd corner really makes your life difficult trying to commit, because you get it slightly wrong, you're into that wall, and it can do some serious damage to your car.
Not forget that the setups the drivers are using will evolve. Fresh track state to begin with, it will wear, and the longer wheelbase Subarus gets more an advantage the longer into the sessions we go. Fox, look how tight and committed he is on that inside of the Joker, rides the bumps, and Leskinen powers on to the tarmac, but well behind. Williams Esports 1 and 2, and Fox grabs the victory to grab spot number 1 in the feature starting grid. You'll have his teammate behind on that run into turn number 1. Going to make things interesting with 2 Williams Esports cars on that tighter inside line. Really does, in some ways, benefit you, in some ways hinder you. We'll see how it plays out. Quick look at the results before we get ready to go for the 2nd and final heat of RX1. Fox and Leskinen, Williams Esports 1 and 2, Parisi, Clogg, Pakala, Heiskanen, Ainge, Larrill, and Kreider, those that go to the LCQs. But Jacob Foss looking to try and return to victory lane for back-to-back weeks. He's got Garrett Maines alongside with the multiple camera angles, Josh Edmondson, Yoni Palaneva, Brian Sawyer, and then Marcos Palacio through the top 6. It's going to be Toby Ward, Russell Peterson, and Anton Jonsson completing the 9 cars that will do battle in heat number 2 once again. 2 spots in the feature up for grabs, with the rest knowing 5 more laps and a last chance qualifier is what awaits. We didn't mention this before, but this is open setups for RX1 compared to RX2, and a slightly smaller incident limit. They can get away with less beating and banging on the run down to turn number 1. Great start from Frost on the inside. He beats Maines in the initial launch. On the brakes, single file 1 and 2. Rafos slides his way clear with Maines tucked in behind. Edmondson, Palaneva, 3rd and 4th, not challenging each other for the time being. They'll rise their way up the hill, duking it out for 7th and 8th positions, but with your leaders clear, and Jacob Rafos finding his way all the way off the track.
Yeah, and it looks ridiculous, doesn't it?
Oh, I'm going to call it out.
sending it backwards into the gravel trap and then just having almost infinite grip compared to everybody else slingshotting your way out the corner. It is ridiculous. iRacing has absolutely no way of dealing with that. Like, there's no slowdown penalty for it, there's no off track, there's no 1x, absolutely nothing. You just kind of gain a ton of grip coming out of the corner. It's not so advantageous to do it when you do it a little bit later on into the race where the inside line's quite gripped up with the way that the track wears, but yeah, at the beginning of these races, it is a ridiculous line.
So Russell Peterson gives us an onboard look at the Joker as he takes the bumpy inside longer time lap, shorter distance lap. A couple of cars really pitching themselves up and over the sleeping policeman, but everyone's still on 4 wheels for the time being.
4 wheels off the track, but
yes, 4 wheels off the track too, but fortunately at least it's all up in the right direction. Palacio kind of gives a bit of a fake to the inside of Sawyer's Ford Fiesta, but as they plunge back down off of the camber of the hill, they continue to fight for 5th and 6th positions. Rafos and Mains look relatively unchallenged at the very front, yet to take the Joker, although a handful behind, I think, did elect to try and take it this time by to put some pressure onto this man, Garrett Mains, in the second and final transfer spot.
Ryan, how many camera angles do we have today? Let's have a look. We got the face cam, we got the foot cam, we got the head cam. Let's go. We got all 3. This is fantastic.
It's perfect for the OnlyFans.
Yeah, we just need to get rid of the boots and then it's perfect.
Ah, okay, I see. Yes, now we'll make it even bigger. There we go. Could just see as well. It's pretty ridiculous. To be fair,
no, but we love it.
No, and to be fair, the series can't really do much about that. iRacing allows it. For them to police it in qualifying would be a living nightmare.
Yeah.
iRacing allowed it in the World Championship. I guess it's fair game for everybody, but I'll remind you of a couple of different instances where that happened in World Championship in the past. Look at brake dragging, look at grass tipping. Let's see where that got us.
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms right there. That is, wow.
I know. And you haven't even watched the Porsche Supercup broadcast yesterday, so you didn't see me almost get Gianni Vecchio into trouble.
Well, I'm now going to go back and watch that instead of going to bed like I probably should when this is
No,
over.
you have to go to bed after this, to be fair.
Okay, I'll download it and watch it on the plane. How that works better.
You are flying to Denmark tomorrow, aren't you?
Yes, and then I'm flying back home again tomorrow as well. I have a long day tomorrow.
You have a lot. I mean, you've had a long year already, and it's just going to get longer from here. I hope you realize.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you just wait till I start giving you some of that code to write.
I'm looking forward to it.
That is never something anyone has said when I say, I'm going to make you write some code. Rafos and Mains are going to leave their Joker to the final lap, but is Edmondson going to take it on the penultimate lap? The 58 holds out for one more. So no changes now expected as we wind into the final lap of heat number 2. Rafos and Mains still comfortable in transfer spots.
Yeah, no camera for Jakob Rafos, which is very sad. We always love to see the death stare into the camera. You know, it's like it is almost comforting in a way.
Comforting? I mean, I guess. Scary is the word I'd use.
Yeah, that too.
Mains sliding his way through. Mains now a little bit tighter. I wonder if we're starting to see the outside line being less of an advantage. It will start to lose its little bit of a speed increase. By the time we get to the feature, I think it will well and truly have worn on through. For Jakob Rafos, though, he's going to be sandwiched by some Williams Esports teammates that want to stop his charge. He's looked comfortable in heat number 2, but the defending champion runs himself out of the Joker at Brands Hatch to grab the victory in heat number 2. He'll advance along with Garrett Mains in that number 1 machine. Rest of the field now. 5 more lap stands between them and a potential chance in the 10-lap main event. Relatively quiet so far, Dane, which means only one thing. We're in for some craziness in the LCQs.
Yeah, and that's pretty much standard across every IRX event, but when you take it to Brands Hatch, then it just gets even crazier because you add crazy to crazy and it just multiplies by 4 times.
Here's the results. Rafos and Mains confirmed on through, but with that said, let's go on over to last chance qualifier number 1, where 7 will enter with spots in the feature on the line. In fact, 4 spots in the feature on the line from what I can see. So really not much fighting, I would expect. Parisi and Clog with Pakala and Heiskanen through the front 2 rows, with Ainge, Larill 5th and 6th positions. Kreider not expected to take to the start. So 6 enter, 4 advance, 2 say goodbye after 5 laps at Brands Hatch. It's a good start from the front row as Clog and Parisi match each other off the blocks. Inside move attempted from row number 2, but around the outside. Give it to Josh Clog, who steals the lead away from Connor Parisi.
And I can't quite make out who it was there. They got a little bit sideways in towards turn number 1, got onto the gravel, sort of the grass on the outside, and somehow made the corner. It was Robbie Larill, I think, who absolutely, like, incredible car control. Managed to make it through there again, sending it all the way sideways into the corner. Bit of contact being made again. And again, Larill makes it through. So some serious luck going on with the 2-1-3. Let's see how long it can last.
Really, again, not much really to fight about. It's 2 that will not advance. And so you're really just not hoping to be the odd men out in this particular race. Connor Parisi, again, we ride on board with as he gives us a great view in towards turn number 1. Car pitches down, manages the balance as he uses both hands to lock the steering over to the right. And momentum carried through the chicane, over the anti-cut curves in towards Druids. These drivers seem to be a little bit more committed to the tighter line, not many taking the alternative line that runs you all 4 wheels off the track. Parisi not really finding a passing opportunity, content to run as he is.
Now making their way back towards, we'll see any jokers perhaps on the drivers this time by. Yes, Parisi makes it through, big send there. But like you said earlier on, the car does settle itself down because of all of these bumps. It does just stick back down to the racing surface.
So Parisi will come across the line, slot himself in between Pakala and Larill. Seems like a handful of drivers using the handbrake to get the car rotated in through turn number 1. Larill almost caught Parisi there with slightly different apex speeds across the 2 Subarus. In fact, I don't know if we really have any non-Subarus in the field here today.
Oh, Larill very sideways again. Just the line that he's taking. It takes some serious guts to do that though, because you've got to make sure that you get that line exactly right, because you have no way of backing out of it once you send it in like that. That is risky business, but seems to be working all right for now.
Front of the field still sees Clog leading in the 199. Pakala starting to be caught by Connor Parisi as we take the 2 lap to go marker. Through turn 1 they go. Larill again a little bit wide. Slips backwards towards Heiskanen, further away from the Nitro Circus Next Level Racing Pimax machine for Connor Parisi, who sees Pakala a little bit wide. Maybe Parisi searching for that alternative line now, although I don't think it works in his advantage.
No, it doesn't seem like it has done. Still out in front is Josh Clog, looking very comfortable up there, of course, with so few drivers actually getting eliminated from this LCQ. Here we go. On board the joke, you can see just how much you got to send it in there and really riding that outside wall.
It's the balance though, because the tighter you are, the shorter distance that you travel, and that's what you'll see with the likes of Rafos, Leskin and Fox, just how tidy they can be to the inside. So in RX2, a handful of drivers getting very, very wild. Speaking of being wild, Robbie Larill got a bit too wild through turn number 1 and now has compromised himself. Has no chance of advancing on through because Heiskanen will take the Joker and swarm the 213, who's going to drop out of those 4 transfer spots that we do indeed have. Clog, the only one of the top 3 yet to Joker. Parisi and Pakala have it all sorted out. Larill, wild and sideways, is going to have to watch though, as Heiskanen will fly his way on to the left-hand side, use the tarmac, and steal a spot in the feature away from that 213 machine. Front of the field. Oh! That was Robbie Larail riding the wall, front of the field. It's going to be Josh Clogg and Connor Parisi a little bit closer at the line, but both advancing along with Jukka Pakala. Santeri Heiskanen well in front of Robbie Larail that tried a Ross Chastain.
Yeah, Hail Melon.
Only to find that the video game strategy didn't work in the video game.
Yeah, that was a definite Hail Melon right there. You know a Hail Melon when you see one. And that was a definite attempt. There was an attempt. Unfortunately, it failed. But you got to respect it. You got to respect the attempt.
Grid for last chance qualifier number 2. Again, 7 enter. It will be 4 that advance. Edmondson and Palaneva on the front row with Palacio and Sawyer behind them. It's going to be Anthony Jonsson, Toby Ward, and then Russell Peterson through the 7. The lights already illuminated, the engines beginning to build, and the focus on turn number 1 for last chance qualifier 2. Bit of a checkup at the front, they bobble up. Almost 3 abreast momentarily. Palacio with the elbows out is going to cause a bit of a blocker, but they swarm their way on through somehow. 1, 2, 3, and 4 single file with Edmondson, Palaneva, Sawyer, and Jonsson scampering their way on through. A bit more of a party behind as they fly towards Druids.
Someone please explain to me how there was no massive pile-up there. Like, that definitely deserved the pile-up, and somehow they all made it through cleanly. As they still managed to keep that cleanness through until now. There's a car out into the wall.
Peterson again gives us this great look over the shoulder effectively as we ride with the 59 machine. Who jokers at the first time of asking? Doesn't seem like anyone takes to the bumpy inside in front of Peterson. Jonsson gets past Palaneva, and now Peterson will cycle his way on through. I just wonder if Palaneva maybe has a slowdown. Now does Peterson have an issue?
Maybe a slowdown, but I can't think of from what.
I am fairly confused right now, and I have no doubt that state of confusion will linger. Edmondson, Sawyer, Jonsson, Palaneva, the 4 in the transfer spots for the time being, with 4 laps still left to go.
Yeah, that's definitely a top 10 most confusing moments. Where did that slow? It must have been a slowdown, right? There's no way that you would just start braking in the straight for no reason. But where did the slowdown come from?
Still not 100% sure. We ride with the Team Watson racing car of Marcus Palacio on the outside looking in. He will take to the Joker, and he runs himself tentatively in. Runs the middle of the dirt section there. It's a little bit 3-wheeled at one point, but safely on through, emerges with plenty of clean air to now use to his advantage. Edmondson unlikely to joker until the very end. The question will be if you're Toby Ward or if you are Yoni Palaneva, Anton Jonsson, what are you thinking about the strategies from those around you as they all jockey for those final transfer spots?
Yep, the strategy part is a massive part of this game we like to call Rallycross. It is really crucial, the timing of the Joker. You've got to look at all the deltas around you. Here you're taking a longer route in terms of time around the circuit, and so you got to figure out where you're going to end up behind where you are now. You don't want to be going out into the Joker if you're going to come out in some dirty air. And here comes Yoni Palaneva around the final corner, going to find himself right in between 2 cars that just came out the Joker themselves.
Sawyer and Jonsson, 2nd and 4th, have now taken to the Joker 1 by 1 with ticking the boxes there. Now just leaves Edmondson, it leaves Palaneva, it leaves Ward as the 3 yet to take to the bumpy dirt section Joker. In terms though of the 4 transfer spots, it's still Palaneva is looking relatively comfortable with Toby Ward yet to really put the pressure on. Jonsson with a small mistake though. It's going to slip backwards closer and closer to the likes of Palacio and Ward.
Well, here's a driver looking very comfortable out there at the moment. It's the number 58 machine, and now, oh, Peterson
has some sort of an issue. He's back on pit lane. We'll take the white flag this time by. It's going to get close between Palaneva and Sawyer again. Palaneva still yet to go to the Joker, but he's going to look towards the inside as they head into turn 1 for the very final time. Sawyer brave and deep under the brakes will hold on for the time being. All this while Edmondson runs clear at the front.
Yep, the 58 very nicely out in front there. You can see the gap behind. It is huge. You can't even see the rest of the field. Making its way into the feature, no doubt.
For Josh Edmondson, he did try and put the pressure on those in his heat race, but it was in a spot where, without forcing the issue, third was likely the best that he could get. He'll scramble his way up and over the bumps to a spot in the feature along with the likes of Brian Sawyer, as well as Anton Jonsson and likely Joni Palaneva. We'll have to wait and see at the line if Palaneva has done enough to hold off Toby Ward in the 66. There's the 31. 66 nowhere in sight. And so we can confirm Brian Sawyer, Anton Jonsson, and Joni Palaneva all advance out of last chance qualifier number 2 to line up at the very tail end of the 10-lap main event. Here's the confirmation of the results and a confirmation on who we say goodbye to, with Toby Ward, Marcus Palacio, and Russell Peterson all done for round number 6 of Racecraft Rallycross RX1. We've whittled it down to 12, and now we get ready for the 10-lap main event that's on deck. 90 seconds or so with the drivers getting a chance to warm up. Most importantly, Dane, of course, for those like Jarno Leskinen and Josh Fox, who waltzed their way out of heat number 1 and have been watching on since then.
Yep, as we said earlier, and it's a very similar story again here. You've got a whole lot of carnage waiting for you in this feature race. Everybody wants those good points. Everybody wants to make their way up towards the front, especially at the beginning of the race. And it is such a tight turn 1. You've got walls on either side for the first part as well, and coming out in towards turn 2 as well. And it is just a recipe for chaos. And we've seen it time and time again. Hopefully we can have a clean start here in the feature race, but with that number of cars on the grid, is it likely? I'm not so sure.
Let's grab a look at our track analysis very quickly if we can, because it's, again, the longest track on the schedule here. Interesting blend of dirt and tarmac that kind of goes back and forth across the facility. Of course, you've got the run into a heavy braking zone for turn 1 that then transitions sharply from tarmac to dirt before slinking down the hill through a dirt chicane up the hill into the regular Druids, where we've seen cars running a little bit wide and really trying to maximize the grip on the very limits of the track. Down the hill, extend Graham Hill Bend, and use part of the natural terrain at Brands Hatch to give a roller coaster effect before you head into the final sector of the traditional Brands Hatch Indy Loop, with the Joker on the inside, bumpy, twisty, and so important to enter correctly, because the entry to the Joker, Dane, is what determines everything else.
Yep, you'll see some drivers taking it really easy and trying to not let the bumps unsettle the car too much. Other drivers sending it in there as hard as possible and really using the bumps to their advantage. It takes a lot of practice to get that line correct, but if you can do it, it is a little bit quicker. And then, of course, all-important exit speed as well. You need to get some good speed out there, otherwise you're going to have a terrible time when everybody else taking the regular route comes blasting by you.
Take a look at the grid, because they're getting lined up. Josh Fox and Jacob Rafoss on the front row, the 2 championship protagonists, with Leskinen and Mains behind. Clogg and Edmondson make up the front 3 rows, with Parisi, Sawyer, Pakala, Jonsson, Heiskanen, and Palaneva, the rest of the 12-car grid. Already, the field getting ready to rumble. Just waiting for Josh Fox to take to his box on the inside, for Josh Edmondson to filter his way down to the starting grid, for us to get launched into turn 1 for the final time today. We've already seen just how treacherous it's going to be. How calm will they be for the main event getting ready to rumble here at Brands Hatch? Away they go. Good start from both Rafoss and Fox, but with Fox down on the inside, how will he work with Leskinen to block the path for Jacob Rafoss? Bit of contact behind. Rafoss gets the elbows out and puts Fox into the wall. Leskinen gets it as well. They check up for second on back with a car on the wrong side of the wall, but Jacob Rafoss clear at the front of the field.
Yep, the 2 Williams eSports cars getting turned into one another as well, and you can see Fox has got away with things, but with a very damaged car, and now has a lot of drivers eagerly waiting just behind, right up on the rear bumper. Absolute chaos there and towards turn 2.
Oh, it's continuing. Garrett Maines and Jarlo Leskinen have just come together as well, and now checked up a couple of cars coming out of that Graham Hill Bend section. Really tumultuous opening lap with Maines now back on pit lane as a result of it.
Wow.
And Rafos with a healthy margin behind. Can't even measure the gap in terms of car lengths. It's closer to 4 seconds between Jacob Rafos clear at the very front, and then the much more damaged Josh Fox, Williams Esports number 12. It's going to be a nice calm ride now for Jacob Rafos, and really we're going to be focusing our attention more on what's already happened and the battles further behind. Let's grab a look here. Fox on the inside, trying to box out Rafos potentially initially, and then as Rafos comes back off the wall, Leskinen may be putting his nose where it really shouldn't have been, because that really kicked it all off.
Yeah, we kind of have another couple of watches of this. We're right on board with Garrett Maines this time, and you'll see on that outside line, looking to see where can you go. Gets a little bit of a body slam from Fox as it all kicks off behind as well. Then has nowhere to go as Leskinen is thrown across the face of the track.
Then there's a car that's literally embedded on the wrong side of the wall. That is, yep, Josh Edmondson.
Yep.
Finally gets himself off of what would have been a 10 out of 10 grind on any video game, because that really would have accumulated over the course of that one. Fox still looking okay in terms of the pace. Might still be able to hold on to second in front of Josh Clogg, who's trying to put the pressure onto that Williams Esports driver. We get a look at the death stare. You were asking, are you comforted now, Dane?
Well, someone who definitely is very comfortable right now is Rafos, because I mean he's literally throwing it around the circuit. He does not give a care in the world right now. Like, he genuinely has probably one of the biggest gaps he's had all season, and the cars behind him are damaged. Like, every car is damaged. I don't think there's a single clean car on the grid right now on the track. Rafos was so far ahead coming into the end of lap number 1. Garrett Maines towed the pit lane, and normally when that happens, when a driver tows, you get put straight to the top of the timing tower because of iRacing API things.
Jacob Rafos is quite distracted right now. I think it goes to show what this turn number 1 complex can do to so many of them. He's putting on a show. Maybe he's watching the broadcast.
I think he's watching us.
Yeah, no, maybe that's what he's doing. At the very end of the day, though, let's go back towards some of the other battles again, because remember, even though Rafos is clear at the front, still plenty to keep our eye on. Clogg, for one, trying to get past Fox, who's limping around with some damage. There's a couple of others, Jarno Leskinen, who really got squeezed into the wall. I think he's going to have significant steering damage. He's trying to hold on to 5th position. And remember, 2 drop rounds in the championship. Leskinen missed the first race before joining us from round 2 onwards. Not many drivers, I think, looking that good in terms of point situations heading out of this.
Yeah, possibly another couple of drop rounds for some of the drivers, and especially some of the drivers who may have already not had a good round. Like, they've already gone, oh, this is going to be one of my drop rounds. We've already just started the second half of the season. You really don't want to be saying that here, but I think a couple of drivers, definitely Garrett Maines going to be one of those drivers, and yeah, maybe even Josh Fox, if he can't keep on to that second place. He is doing a fantastic job of keeping some level of pace at the moment.
Working their way through Druids. Fox, in fact, growing the gap to Clogg, so as we approach half race distance, doing what he needs to, minimizing the pain that he could have felt heading out of this one. After this, of course, Brands Hatch, I think one that everyone was hoping just to scramble on through and then forget as quick as possible. We've got another round, which I think we're already hoping that we are going to forget as soon as possible. Not coming up next, because we're off to Barcelona next, and while that's forgettable in many ways, it's the one after that, Lucas Oil Raceway, that I think is the most scary of them all.
Ah, Lucas Oil's not that bad. Come from Barcelona, Lucas Oil is like heaven.
Track design, I don't know about that.
I mean, it looks a bit sus, but you know, Barcelona's track design features every turtle than exists.
Barcelona in the real world is a much less poorly executed track than the version that we have in iRacing.
Oh, absolutely. Barcelona in other titles is one of my favorite tracks. I was very excited when they announced it was coming to
I know.
iRacing, and then I was severely disappointed when I drove it for the first time. I don't actually think I've driven it since.
Especially when you find out when the start-finish line is, because that's the worst part. Leskinen and Jonsson are going to be side by side. This for 4th position as well, so Leskinen doing a great job. Look at the damage on the right front of his car. Going to send it into the braking zone. So much confidence on the side of the young Jarno Leskinen, and as easy as you like, he takes 4th away from Jonsson, who smacks himself into the wall for good measure.
Not the first time we've seen a car do that today, and I doubt it's going to be the last, even though we have only a few laps to go in this race. I feel like definitely going to see at least one more driver do that. It is so easy to do with all of these walls here. And a lot of them are, to be fair, quite soft walls. You know, you've got some of the walls on iRacing that you touch them and it throws you off, like that wall in the Joker on the inside at Charlotte. Yeah, that one's a tough one. You touch that one and you're going miles away, but some of these walls you can sort of rest up against, you can lean against them a little bit, clip them on the inside. They're not going to do too much to your car.
Across the line to make 3 to go for Josh Fox. Smoke coming out the back of one of our machines. That's with a blown up engine, surely, as Heiskanen and Pakla both take split approaches to Joker lap and regular lap. Jumping up over the bumps is Jukka Pakala there. Frost still leads, yet to take to the Joker. Fox is yet to Joker, Clog has Jokered. I failed to notice that one, so there is still the potential for Fox to get swarmed by Clog, although the margin as it stands right now still favors the Williams Esports driver.
It's a bit big, but Clog still has that up his sleeve, and Fox still not taking to the Joker just yet either, so Clog's got something to fight for at least, and that's always helpful. It's always very easy to lose motivation when you're just fighting up against a random number in the delta. It's so difficult to race against that, and that's what you're doing so often in terms of rallycross. But when you've got a car in front of you that you've got to try and catch up with as much as possible, and you know they're coming back towards you when they do take that Joker, it really helps.
On board with Brian Sawyer a little bit further back in his Ford Fiesta, as other than Garrett Maines, everyone's still out on track with 2 laps left to go. Got Connor Parisi at the very tail end of the field, but he's left in an interesting spot. Has Heiskanen taken -1? I'm very confused by that left side of the screen.
Okay, yes, yeah, no, what has happened there? Heiskanen,
Okay, so he's accidentally Jokered twice is what's happened.
Oh, okay, so I guess I know who designed this overlay, and I'm going to now say hashtag blame Josh Lee.
Okay, cool.
Because, yeah, that's what happens when you don't allow overflow. Cool. So now that we've figured that out.
It got me very confused for a second there.
-1 Joker?
Fox is still yet to Joker, don't forget. So on the final lap of the race, we don't just expect Jacob Rafos to be off to the right here. We expect the Williams Esports driver as well. Drama at Brands Hatch. I mean, the two go together like tea and Dame Baird. However, for Jacob Rafos, victory and him go as well as bread and butter will go together. It is another victory this season for Jacob Rafos, who has now grabbed 5 victories this season. Josh Fox is going to do enough to, I think, grab second in front of Josh Clog. The Williams Esports driver minimizes the damage. Tumultuous up and down day here in Brands Hatch.
I would like to clarify that I think tea is disgusting.
Wow, okay, so you need to get your UK citizenship revoked immediately.
I'm not British enough for that. I am not. I will retain that for the longest time. I will claim my Australianism at this point.
Australianism?
Australianism. I will join David Haynes and all of that lot, and I will say I don't drink tea.
Good day, mate, to Dame Baird, but Jacob Rafos at the front. Another victory. I mean, 6 wins in 10 rounds last year, not 10 races that he participated in. I mean, he's already at 5 this season. Can he beat that? You'd be hard-pressed to bet against it. Fox does a great job to grab second, given the damage on his car. That's the type of fight that a championship battle is made from. Clog will be delighted to grab third, his first podium of the season. Leskinen in 4th with Jonsson in 5th, Palaneva, Edmondson, Sawyer, Pakala, Heiskanen through your top 10. with Parisi and mains 11th and 12th. Mains are only DNF. We'll give it a few moments and hopefully we'll get a chance to chat with all three of our podium sitter. Take a breath, Dane. Get ready to go to sleep, I guess, but you've got too much adrenaline going through your veins.
Yeah, I'm in desperate need of sleep right now, and tea wouldn't help me with that. No, it definitely would.
Tea's got a lot of caffeine, people forget.
Yeah, tea, you know who forgot? Is our good friend Hugo Luis, who accidentally had a cup of tea, a Monster, and a can of Coke all at very quick succession, and yeah, had a very interesting time with that. But yeah, it's been a very exciting round at Brands Hatch. I don't think you can use a nicer term to describe the racing that we see at Brands Hatch and the Rallycross mod. I think exciting and entertaining is one word, and then everything else is, well, it makes Barcelona look good. That's saying something.
Well, let's grab a quick look at the schedule. We've given the drivers a couple of minutes, but I get the sense that this is the type of round that I need to be a bit of a debrief, and immediately after, it seems like the debrief has begun. Barcelona up next as we continue our European swing, and then, of course, straight on over to Lucas Oil to start the month of April. We will get a week off before we head to the penultimate round to really set up, I think, a little bit more of an intense championship showdown. And, of course, all roads will lead to Sonoma, where the championship, hopefully, is still on the line, and hopefully Jacob Rafals has not got it clinched up before we even get to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I think we are, at the very least, going to get the chance to chat with Josh Fox, who is standing by. So Dane Baird talks with the Pennsylvania native who scrambles a recovery drive here today.
Yeah, Josh, that was quite the impressive drive. I must say, in that feature race, I was not expecting you to be able to hold on to that second position. You had a lot of damage to the front of your car. Just talk us through the Brands Hatch circuit and the experience of driving around this place, because it seems to just breed chaos every time we visit.
Right. Even without the damage, it's always a handful to drive around this place. And yeah, it's really interesting with the way you can take different lines and how the track changes lines during the race. And it's very, very tricky, even with limited opportunities for passing. Just about hitting your own marks and running your own race there, which I thankfully was able to do after the start and just hung on for P2.
Yeah, given the start of the race, I think P2 is definitely not a bad effort at all. I did want to quickly ask you a question, because I've actually never spoken to anyone about this before, even though we've all sort of mentioned it in Discord servers and in voice chats, but I never actually fully asked someone, how off-putting and sort of counterintuitive is it to send your car backwards into the hairpin to get into the gravel trap? Because it just looks crazy from the off-board cameras.
You know, I'll tell you what, I think that corner is where some dirt oval experience pays off, because it's a different direction of turn, obviously, but it's still like you're throwing it at the wall or at the edge of the track, and you just have the faith that the grip is there. And here, the grip is there because of the strip of pavement, and so that definitely helps. But I think, yeah, it's a lot of fun to run that line for sure. But it definitely goes away pretty much from the middle of the race onwards. It's not as good.
And then we go from Brands Hatch to Barcelona up next, which is another one of those very odd, interesting circuits that we've got in the IRX calendar. What are your thoughts heading into the next round?
Yep, good track for me. I'm really looking forward to racing at that track. Had a good run in there the last time the Rallycross World Championship was there, and feeling pretty good from some official racing this week there. Seems like the pace is still there, so I like driving that track a lot, and looking forward to getting there and hopefully having a better day.
Well, it's going to be difficult for you to make it any better than already you got this weekend with the second place already. You got to top that off with a victory next week. Hopefully, you'll be able to get that for yourself at Barcelona. Well, Josh, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you then.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And really quickly, just want to thank everybody at Racecraft TV, everyone watching. Appreciate the show. Also thanks to Williams Esports and all the great partners there: BenQ, Chill Blast, Fanatec, Playseat, Team Razor, Heisinckveld Pedals, Duracell, Riccar Automotive, and Gulf Oil.
Did you miss any?
Nope.
Awesome. Well, it seems to get longer and longer every week with you guys. But Josh, thank you very much, and we'll see you in Barcelona.
Thanks.
And we'll have a quick chat now with your race winner, Jacob Rafos, before ramping things up. Jacob, back to your winning ways. I mean, talk to us about your perspective of what happened at the start of the feature there.
I mean, I just sent it around the outside trying to overtake Josh Fox, but I don't know. I think it was a little bit netcode. I watched the replay back, so yeah, unfortunate there. Some contact, some netcode, something.
And then what were you doing through the course of the feature? Because it looked like you were having a big old smile and a good old laugh at times, being a little bit distracted from what was going on track.
Yeah, I got my got my stream on my TV here, so I watched it because I was just going quick on my phone, and I was like, I had to watch it back, and I was just laughing. It's really hard because yeah, I saw it was on my phone and came on the stream.
Well, halfway through the season now, you've already got 5 wins in 6 races. It's looking very good for you, but still plenty of racing left to go. Congratulations on another victory. We'll see you in a week's time.
Thanks, and I'd like to thank Simagic, Nitro Circus, Next Level Racing, and them racing guys.
Jacob Rafos, a winner once again in Racecraft Rallycross. Dane will quickly sum up our thoughts, because this has been the longest round of the season so far, because it's the longest track of the season. Crazy racing today. He forgot to unmute his mic. Look at that.
No, I had to mute myself because I was having a bit of a giggle with Jacob's answer to one of those questions. But yeah, very interesting rounds, very exciting rounds. Hopefully we'll get some good racing at Barcelona. It tends to be a little bit of a push-to-pass circuit, and there's some shenanigans that go on in qualifying and with the jokers and stuff, so we'll see how that goes, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one.
It's time to wrap things up then. Halfway through the season, and now the second half starts off with a bang. Don't forget the European swing continues, this time next week live on Racecraft TV, 4 p.m. Eastern, March the 26th. Don't forget, I believe the clocks move forward in Europe next week, so slightly different time for you. But 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. For now, though, on behalf of the team behind the scenes at Racecraft TV, Vista Van Ballo at TrackCams22.com, for Ryan Bauer, our producer, Dane Baird, along with myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you for joining us here at Brands Hatch for another crazy round of Racecraft Rallycross. We'll see you in 7 days' time from the Spanish coast.